Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Bagg, and welcome to Orange Slices 2022 edition. That's right. We've got a new background for me, and we've got other stuff coming to the show soon. So make sure you rate, like, and review, and follow us because new things are coming all the time. Let's start the show, shall we? Well, welcome back, Jeff. It's 2022. Seems like 2020. Things are unsure. Let's have a good day.
What's up, Lord Bagg? Happy New Year. I mean, we've already talked, but we'll pretend like we haven't.
We'll pretend.
But let's pretend. You were in San Jose on the weekend, right?
I
So for New Year's.
Mm-hmm. I
So
was.
that was exciting.
Where were you?
I was in Vegas. Yep, I was in Vegas and didn't do anything too crazy, but had the fireworks going, so it was good.
You shot some fireworks?
No, I went down. We watched some of the fireworks. It's funny. Every year they always talk about, oh, we can't do it unless the wind is below like 15 miles an hour. And I swear it was blowing 30 or 40, and they were firing things off the top of the casinos. They're like, we don't care this year. We're sending them. So it was pretty funny. But
it's been forever since I've done a New Year's in Vegas. I think the last time I was there was at the Station Casino. Is what I think I was. That was the last time I did a New Year's.
At the Palace Station, was it?
Palace Station, yeah.
Holy cow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, different people. I don't even think cab was in my life back then. I was running wild, running free.
Well, I remember being there, the Palace Station. We used to call it the smoke station.
Yeah.
You'd go in there and just get marinated in smoke. But if I remember correctly, don't we have some seafood or something? It's known for its seafood. Palace Station, I-15, and the Sahara, where all the accidents meet when guys and gals are driving home at the end of the day. So
where all the old people meet up in the parking lot and try to get the parking spot closest to the casino without paying for it. That's where I love it. It was a good place. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the people that own that started the UFC, right? That what it was?
The Fertitta family. I don't know if they're still involved in it or not, but the Fertitta family started the Stations casinos here in Vegas, and they're all over the valley now. But then they got into the UFC, and kind of the figurehead of the UFC is Dana White, right? But there's other people involved with that. And the Fertitta family is one of them. Longtime Vegas family. So, we should, next time we come to town, let's go to the Palace Station for some old times. Maybe go have some seafood over there.
Let's go get diarrhea at the Palace Station. Well, we started off this year, 2022, with not talking with hockey. With the first 3 minutes, we're just like, okay, we'll talk everything but hockey. So we might as well get in. Let's start off with COVID is still taking havoc on the league. And I am shocked and surprised. We haven't talked about this, but I am shocked and surprised that there wasn't a game plan in place if things took a turn. Right? You're just like, oh, these guys are surprised. And all they've done is talk about how they're going to get the salary cap up in year because everything's back in the stadium without thinking, oh, it may happen. It may rear its ugly head again, and you got to have an emergency exit. And they did not have an emergency exit, did they?
No, it's I was looking today at the standings, and a lot of teams. There's a couple teams like Vancouver, Pittsburgh, Vegas has been good lately. Colorado, the Rangers are still cooking along out east, but a lot of these teams that are out of the playoff picture right now have been blah since all this kind of got going again. 2-3, 3-2. Some teams like Minnesota, I think, are 0-4-1 in their last 5. So, I think the unknown, right? Oh, we're going to go play up in Winnipeg. Are we not? We're going to play in Vancouver, or is Vancouver coming down to play us? What is going on? And I think, to get back to your original question, they thought the 3 weeks in February was going to kind of be their, they're soft place for a soft fall. But if you look at it right now, like the only game that's been played in Canada in the last week or maybe 10 days, it might be, is Toronto the other night for Hockey Night in Canada. Nobody in the stands because they can afford to do that because they're the Leafs.
Yeah,
and between them and the Rangers, they're the top two teams as far as what they're worth in the whole NHL. But
to be honest with you, that came across to me like we got so much money, we don't give a shit. I was laughing. I'm like, we're gonna play with nobody in the stands. We don't give a shit. Kiss my nuts and walk away. Yeah, we can blame that. We can bleep that off.
I kind of think it was a little bit of that too. So they played Ottawa, blew Ottawa out on Saturday night, and now you look like,
which is funny because that was the game we were all looking forward to, Toronto, Ottawa.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Together, everybody's like pins and needles. What will happen?
Yeah, we don't know. We only saw them play 10 times last year against each other. Let's see what happens with no one in the stands again. Oh, okay, Toronto wins 6-0. But if you look at it, some of the Canadian teams are down in the States right now playing. Vancouver just wrapped up in California and played the Kraken. They don't play for another week, and they're going to play Ottawa at home. But then you've got Winnipeg just came through Vegas. They're in Arizona, then Colorado. Then they go home, and then you've got Calgary, who's started, I believe, in Seattle, went to Chicago, and they're in Florida right now. They play Florida, Tampa, and Carolina this week, I believe. Well, that's great, but Calgary's only played 11 home games. Just to give you some color on that, Vegas is going to play their 18th home game tonight. Anaheim is second in the Pacific. They played 16 or 17. So what's going to end up happening here is you're going to have all these teams that have delayed their trips up to Canada. They're going to go up there sometime after February now, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have 3-week homestands for some of these teams, like Calgary has played very few games at home. Vancouver, all of them. And unless you get a team like Toronto that doesn't care, and says, we need to keep going, we'll play in front of no one. The gate is such a big deal in the NHL. And I just don't see the Canadian government switching direction this quickly and allowing full houses back in the stands in the next 4 weeks. So again, this has the opportunity or the possibility, I guess, to drag into the late spring and summer, which is the last thing anybody wants to see happen. But in the NBA and the NFL, at Major League Baseball, there's one Canadian team in each of those. I tried to get them all, but there's no Canadian team in the NFL yet. But it's a little easier in Major League Baseball. You brought the Blue Jays down. They played in Dunedin, Florida last year, I think, until they could get people in the stands. And the Raptors were down, and I think they might have played somewhere in Florida too. So
they're playing in Buffalo, I think
was it Buffalo? Yeah. So you have 7 Canadian teams in NHL, and with nobody allowed in the building right now, this is going to be a real conundrum going down the stretch. And everybody's break in February, that's going to be gone. And I think they should all start planning on extending their leases into the early summer for a lot of them, because I think you're going to see this go a long ways again, which is exactly what nobody wants, but it looks like it's going to happen.
I think the league's at fault. I think you plan for the worst, and I don't think they plan for the worst, even though it's going to be bounce around, and it always works out no matter what. It may not be what you want it to be, and we'll take this right to the World Juniors. You got to teach people that the best laid plans don't always turn out, and the person that loses their mind, their whatever you want to call it, that's not who you want in charge. That's not who you want to be around. You just got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Okay, how do we do it now? And I was actually shocked and surprised that they would make kids that age, because the World Juniors is still kids that age, feel like the world is falling apart around them over something being canceled. I think the proper way to go with it was you diversify. I'm not using the right word, but you just pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you figure out where do you go next? What do we do now? And
I think you had the record player on 45 there for a second. You got to switch it back.
I know I was talking way too fast. Yep, yep,
You
yep, yep.
were, you were speed talking there for a second.
But I honestly believe that, you know, they quit yelling at me. They do a disservice to a human being by making them feel like this is the only chance you get.
Mhm.
It is not. We've all been sick and missed stuff. We've all been not able to get someplace, and there's nothing better than seeing somebody lose their shit in an airport because they missed one plane without realizing in 2 hours there'll be another plane. You know,
Mhm.
and I feel that's what they're doing to them. The best of the best are still gonna survive. The kids that aren't gonna make it are not gonna make it. The kid that with the most personality is going to drive himself into the league even if he didn't get the chance, you know.
Well, if you go back to this whole start of this pandemic, we're 2 years now, right into 2 years, and
One
the
more year.
people that are bearing the brunt of this, everyone's had some form of it, but the seniors and the young kids are the ones. And I might have sound like a broken record. I might have said this last week, but
Probably.
you know, our seniors are bearing the brunt of it, and then our kids are bearing the brunt of this, and no greater, you know, when you look at the World Juniors, these kids were in quarantine since the 15th or 10th of December or something up in northern Alberta. They came over, they did their thing. There was a couple of positive COVID tests, and they shut it all down. I don't know. I just look at other leagues.
You put two teams in a hotel. You put them in quarantine,
Yeah.
but then you put them in a hotel where there's a wedding going on, and then they can't figure out how. You know, the people that don't have to get tested, and then they wonder how did this get through how did this get through? Well, yeah, that's great that you quarantined them, but you didn't. You made them stay away from their families and stuff and their teams without quarantining. That was a fake quarantine. So and then
Well,
and then you know everybody's like, but as soon as your referees start getting it, there's a finite number of referees, you know, that are up there. So you have to think about that. And we'll bring up the referees as we talk about COVID again, and we're going to move on from COVID after this couple of minutes. But the referees have been just doing normal stuff. They've been going back and forth between countries, flying commercial, no lockdown for them. I'm sure they're the ones that are spreading it through the league, by the way. Everybody's getting it.
Well, they could be because they're considered essential service, right? So people may say, well, how's the refs do it? Well, they're considered essential service, so they go and do their thing. Then they come back, spend time with their family. They go back out. I would think that with the World Juniors and with the refs and the players, that you know they had excess refs and they had excess players. Now, obviously, if it starts going through the referees, I'm not sure what their testing protocol is either. But I just sit here and watch all the bowl games in the U.S. and the NFL games and the NBA games. And last night I watched the Cleveland Browns after the Rangers and the Oilers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And life's going on. And I don't know. I'm not here to say whether it's right or it's wrong, but people are there. They're doing their thing. And there's just been no goal for any of this. We're 2 years into it, and we're still scratching and clawing and trying to figure out how this is going to go. And the NHL, the way it's set up right now, is going to have a very interesting finish to the year, because you're going to look at a lot of these teams, especially in Canada, are going to have a ton of home games. So if they get on a roll at home, look out. You know, and teams like Calgary have played less games than everyone else, but more road games than everyone else. So they're set up really well at home if they get, you know, if they get going. But one of the things that bothers general managers in the NHL more than anything is long homestands. They all like 3-4 games max, and then on the road. Once you start getting over 3 or 4 games,
write that down, kids.
The comfort level sets in. You're just kind of in your routine again. Being on the road just kind of creates a different environment for your team. So, team to watch out for this week that's on a long homestand right now, or they haven't really traveled that much other than LA just after Christmas, is Vegas. Vegas has had Anaheim, Winnipeg. They play Nashville, the Rangers, and the Blackhawks at home this week. So we'll see there's a 5-gamer right there for you. We'll see what they do
That's a
after being at home.
5-game week. That seems like is that it's one of those games replacing something? Because usually it's 3 to 4 games a week, right?
Yeah, well, it's every other night, but I guess, I'm just using Vegas as and you're going to see this in Canada once we get on the other side of this thing, which hopefully, they say the Omicron is going to peak somewhere in the next 2-3 weeks. So let's just say between the end of January and middle of February, it
Right.
peaks and it starts down. And I didn't say this, but some really smart people in South Africa said this. As fast as it came to South Africa, it went, because it went through the population so quick. They seem to be doing well. I hope we can do the same thing and get people back in the buildings and get the league going. Because the last thing I want to see is the Stanley Cup handed out in June or July, August, or September again. I just don't think that benefits the league at all.
September is too late, but I said we're not going to talk about it. I'm going to go right back to too many games. If they'd just gone with a couple less games, we wouldn't be worried as much. So too many games, and they wanted to put the Olympics in as well. So it's just too many games, too much greed. Okay, it's 2022, Jeff. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year? Throw it out there. Come on. Let's play that.
Hey, you know what? Again, that's a great question. It's an interesting one because the dynamics of the league the last 2 years have been so far off kilter with the way they've done it. Now, with this latest pause in some places, it's gone off kilter again. I will say this. The way Calgary's looking right now, it's the best I've seen them look in a long, long time. So don't sleep on them. If they can get it going at home, they could end up winning the Pacific. Vegas, once they get healthy, is a real team to look out for. And I'm just going to go west. Colorado, obviously, and St. Louis, okay? Those are just 4 teams I'll bring up right there. In the East, the Rangers look like they're the real deal. Don't sleep on Washington, Florida, or Tampa, of course, as usual. And you know who's on a torrid streak right now out there is our friends in Pittsburgh. So I'm leaning a little bit more towards, say, a Washington, kind of getting their act back together. But I wouldn't sleep on the Rangers. And, of course, the 2 teams in Florida are probably going to see each other at some point in the playoffs. And I think after the first round last year, Tampa playing Florida and that just unbelievable series that they had got them squared away and focused to run the table. And we'll see who comes out of that series if they play again this year. But there's 8 teams, 9 teams that I think right now could be there in the end.
Carolina out of it.
Yeah, I did. You know what? Because I was talking for quite a while there. So I was like, I could have thrown them. I mean, I love Carolina. If you get a chance to watch them, if you watch Carolina play, they're incredible. They're relentless and the pressure all over the ice. So there's another team. I'd say right now there's probably 10 to 12 teams that you could, pencil in and say, these guys are definitely capable of getting to the Final Four. But like I said, look at the standings. The last 5 to 10 games, a lot of the pursuers have just been come see, come saw, like really average. And I just, this whole COVID thing and the way it's going is going to carry on. And I can tell you from talking to some of the guys in the league, they're done. Like they're all vaccinated. These are young guys. They want to get going. They're all bulletproof, right? So it's taken a physical toll as far as, they're not playing as much, but it's taken a bigger mental toll, I think. And that's why you're seeing some games that are a little herky-jerky and some teams that are scuffling right now.
Dallas in the West. They're up and down every week. They're up, they're down.
I didn't bring Dallas up because on the road, they're 4-9-1 this year, but they have played the fewest games in the Central. So here's what I will say about the West and the East as far as wild card. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, here it comes. I like what you got going behind you there today too. I can't see. Is that
you need a decoration?
Is that your bedroom?
That's your bedroom.
Is that mine?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Oh, look at that. Is that the Stanley Cup in the back?
Stanley Cup sitting behind us.
Yeah, look at that.
2022, we got a new background.
Hey, the Long Beach is going to win the Cup this year. But yeah, here's what's going on in the wild card, and this is why it's concerning to me to see some of these teams that are pursuing right now not getting their act together. Colorado's woke up. Now they're in the last wild card position. Minnesota's fallen asleep lately. They could fall out. But to think that Minnie and Colorado won't make the playoffs is a stretch. The second team in the wild card right now is Edmonton. So, but they're scuffling. So you have you're going to start to see separation. You're already seeing it in the Eastern Conference. Boston has got like 41 points. The next team in the wild card, I think, is Detroit in the low to mid 30s. So what you could have is a runaway situation unless a team does what like Vancouver's done right now and gone 8-0-1 in their last 9 games or something insane.
And not everybody can do that. There's only a certain amount that can do that.
I don't see a Pacific team. I see the top 3 Pacific teams. Obviously, they get in the division, but I see the wild cards in the West are probably going to be from the Central. And then in the Eastern Conference, you're going to see Boston kind of find their way into a wild card and Pittsburgh. Sorry, Pittsburgh's the one that's the top wild card, and Boston is mixed in a little bit below them, but they haven't played as many games. So I could see some have and have nots going here pretty soon.
Nice. Who's going to be a seller at the end of the year? Who's going to be selling?
Arizona.
other than the whole franchise, what players do you think go towards rented to try to get to the Stanley Cup final?
I think you're going to see Montreal be one of them. The Islanders, if they don't get going, be another one.
Hold on, let's stop. So Montreal, who do you think's for sale?
I don't think there's anybody that's not for sale in Montreal or available other than maybe Nick Suzuki. I think you're going to see a lot of people go after Sherratt in Montreal. People are going to kick the tires on Carey Price, depending on where his health is and if he's back.
Does he?
And then there's going to
people trade for him if he doesn't play. If he doesn't play at all,
I don't know what happens there with that. I mean, he's still got a ways to go to get himself back to where he needs to be. But if he starts playing, they start stringing some wins together. Josh Anderson's a guy that teams will kick the tires on. But the big holdup with a guy like Price and a guy like Josh Anderson is, and Brendan Gallagher's another one in Montreal. Those guys all have term. They're all 4 or 5 years left on their deals. So Montreal is not going to want to hold money back, I don't believe. So it's going to be interesting to see who would bite on those guys because so many of the contending teams are tight against the cap.
Very nice, Jeff. Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So, who else did you say would be selling?
Well, the Islanders could be one.
Jersey?
Well, I don't know about New Jersey. They're a little bit younger. They might have a veteran or a guy that might be expendable, but I could see the Islanders, if they don't get it together, I could see them moving guys out, making changing the guard there a little bit. Mm-hmm. Dallas is another one. If they don't get it going, I could
Dallas
see
would have a lot for sale, right?
Yeah, Dallas has got some pieces that guys want, but again, the big problem is how creative can you get to get the player you want that won't fit under your cap? Who are you going to, and that's where you're going to start to see other teams come in, take money, and maybe get a draft pick for taking some money off a guy's contract, like happened a few years ago when Vegas traded Tatar to Montreal. They held some of his money back, right? So they could get the deal done. So that's kind of just, there's different ways to look at it. But I see Vegas as a team that's going to have to be involved somehow because they're going to be $5 to $7 million over the cap. So they're going to have to do something as a contender.
What team, if it was you, what team are you general managing and say, I want to take a run at Jamie Benn?
Well, I don't think any team. I mean, he could help anybody, but then again, it comes down to cost. And if you look at it, there's always uncertainty, but now there's even more. There hasn't really been a deal done since, I guess, the Eichel trade earlier in the season. But as soon as the COVID came back in the picture, everybody kind of started sitting on their hands. But it's getting to the point, like if you're in Edmonton or you're in Dallas, where you're kind of down this, Edmonton's falling. Dallas is lower in the standings. I'll just use those two teams. You got to do
Edmonton,
something, right,
Edmonton.
if you want to make a run at it.
Uh,
So I think anybody would take Jamie Benn. The question is what at what cost? Does Dallas is tight against the cap too. So if they hold money, you better pay a king's ransom to get them, right?
who who would he fit in Edmonton? Would he help out in Edmonton or no?
I don't think the problem in Edmonton is with the forwards. I think the problem is with their depth on defense and in goal. If
They
they can get
definitely
someone to stop the
they've
puck,
got to keep. They've got to be wondering about Carey Price. They've got to be asking about Carey Price. Like
I'm sure they're asking about everybody.
I seen an interview yesterday, and he, what's his face? The coach there just said our goaltending was bad. Like that was it. Like I've never. Our goaltending was bad. Like just like I don't like that guy. You might as well have said that. It was crazy. I'm always interested in some of the questions these reporters ask. Hey, coach, if McDavid's shot got through, it would be a different game. Well, duh. Like that's the stupidest question I've ever heard. Like you can't just change things. It didn't get through. Why would you ask that question? Like why wouldn't you ask what was your most disappointing part of the game for you? What like the questions. What would it have been a different game if his shot had got through into the net? Yes, that means we would have scored another goal. So it would have been a different game. You douchebags. Oh God, they make me so mad. Just like ask me for questions.
Well, he did respond about his goalie. Very rarely will you see an NHL coach take their goalie down, especially when you really don't have anybody to back him up. I mean, in Edmonton, Mikko Koskinen's got to carry the load. They got the young guy Skinner that's going to play, I think, tomorrow night in Toronto. And I mean, what a place to kind of get your start. But, I guess if he can hold the fort, he's a really good young goalie with a high ceiling. Mm-hmm. Edmonton needs Jordan Binnington, right? Like when Jordan Binnington came out of nowhere for St. Louis a few years ago, they didn't have, he plugged that spot. They knew they were going to get great goaltending every night. And, a team like Edmonton, you need a surprise player. And Edmonton right now, it may be Skinner, their young goalie, is the guy that can do it for them. I can promise you Kenny Holland's phoning about other goalies in the league. But again, who's willing to make the deals right now?
If you research a little bit about Edmonton's goalie coach has been there for 14 something years, I think 14 years. And his highest level he played was university hockey. So nothing against that, but there's a lot of goaltenders out there that would probably take that job in a second. And I think that's always been Edmonton's problem with, we're fine, we've got this, don't worry about it. And that's why they haven't gotten far. Like they change the rims, but they leave the tires on.
Well, Edmonton is one of the teams in the league, and the Rangers are similar, although better defensively, much better defensively. They're not afraid to outscore you in a game. If it's 6-5, 7-6, 8-7, that's fine with them. They're quite comfortable playing that kind of hockey. But the problem is
the
when
Rangers
you fall down.
Rangers goalie is awesome. Like a Rangers goalie, that's the problem. That's fine with playing that game, but you got to have Grant Fuhr back there.
Mm-hmm. Well, another team that doesn't mind going with you too is Winnipeg, but they've got Hellebuck, right? So they're willing to take chances. Even in Vegas, they're not as defensively sound as they once were, but they don't mind getting in a track meet with you. And the problem in Edmonton is when we saw them here, Koskinen probably played the best game of his career, the best game I've ever seen him play. That was November 27th. It's January 4th today, and they're 2-8-2 in their last 12 games. So, and he's played the majority of them. So you have to get, your goalie doesn't have to be great. He just has to be good and make the saves he's supposed to, and the odd one he's not supposed to. And that is, like average NHL goaltending is very good. But they're not getting that right now in Edmonton, and that is why they're falling down the standings. And the same thing in Minnesota. They're 4-1 their last 5. They're not getting it right now either. So just good goaltending, average goaltending in the NHL is probably good enough for most of these teams to be in the mix and stay in the mix.
Let's go to we're getting to 29 minutes here, so we're going to move on fairly. We'll probably make it we might get to 40 this week for Trevor Henry. We'll put that extra 10 minutes out for Trevor. But question for you. We're going to talk about young coaches in the league, and I want to talk about San Jose with a young coach, the Boogeyman. He got his first shot in with the Panthers, right? That's where his first shot, and he did fairly well with them, but they unceremoniously let him go. When we also know they've done that to a couple coaches, and then he ended up as an assistant coach in San Jose. I think he's done great with that team. I think they kind of have his personality, don't you?
Yeah, he's done a good job. He came in last year in San Jose in a really tough spot, and
year before
he did the best he could. Was it? Oh, sorry. Yeah. It was the year before. My good catch, Lord Bagg. So he came in a tough spot. The team was spinning its wheels, but one of the things that helps is when your best players are your best players. And Burns is back. Couture's having a good year. Hurdle has done his thing. And more than anything, EK65 in San Jose, our good friend Erik Karlsson, is back playing at an elite level. And so he is kind of a blue-collar coach. Bobby Bugner played against him. He was a rough and tumble player.
Was he rough and tumble?
Oh yeah, Boogs was a tough dude. And the thing about him is I think what you see is what you get. So I think the players appreciate his honesty, and they know what San Jose, I don't think, is really guessing. Another team that's really guessing at what they're supposed to do when they get to the rink. I think they all kind of know. It's like in Calgary with Daryl. They all know you got to bring the effort. And Boogs is not Daryl, and the fact Daryl's a little bit more stern. Bugner's a little younger guy, a little bit maybe more outgoing, but things are turning around in San Jose. And that if someone falls asleep, they could get the wild card. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the two big things that helped them out was they needed a change in goalies, and they did that. They Jones had been there for a lot, but he just wasn't there anymore, right? It seems like he's got a little bit of a resurgence in Philadelphia. He's playing a little bit better out there, but he's not a number one, which always helps a guy out, right? And the other thing was it was $8 million worth of sadness on that team, and they decided to just let that ride in the minors. And I think it's helped out the personality of the team. The personality isn't dragged down there. So
I think, there's two things there. Obviously, they've had a little bit of change in the way that the dressing room's operating in, and the kind of the feeling around the team. But more than anything is they're getting NHL goaltending now, which they were not getting.
Yeah, it's so important. Yep. It's so important.
It is. You hit it on the head. Like, I mean, San Jose, if you look at their team, they've been able to get some young guys in that lineup, but their goalies are stopping the pucks they're supposed to. And you just have to look at Edmonton right now. And this isn't to beat up on Koskinen. I mean, but the other night in New York, he goes to play the puck. The forward beats him to it, and boom, it goes out to the front. And that Ranger shoots it in the open net. It's 1-0, and they're off and running against a team that's struggling right now. And when your team's struggling, sometimes your goaltender just has to be a brick wall in there. And it's not happening in Edmonton right now, but it has happened.
About these players for the most part, I would say 99.9% of the time, we're talking about the skills that of the job they do. We're not turning on the human. There's been a couple of people that we've turned on that we know, but other than that, I'm talking to you, Steve Spot. We all know it's sadly we've all seen somebody not be able to keep up with the level that they're at, and Koskinen is just not that guy, and I don't understand why they just keep ramming it in that net. It's bizarre. And I don't know. I'm guessing they've got to use that $6 million or whatever they're paying him a year, and that's why they're doing it. But it's not helping anything out. At some point, these elite players are going to be turning on him, and it's just a lonely mental road for that guy. Although he's Russian and he probably doesn't speak a word of English, so he's probably fine.
I don't think he's Russian. I think Koskinen's a Finn, and he's about
Oh, yeah,
3.75. Yeah. So you were taking down the human there for a second. But I think I'll give you an example. Mike Smith was the guy in Edmonton, and he's 38 or 39 now. And Mike Smith has played really well, but he's been injured a lot this year.
Yeah.
So Koskinen has had to assume the number one role. I'll give you an example of a team that's in the same division, which I get to see quite a bit. Leonard has been injured in Vegas recently. They signed Laurent Brossoit in the summer, who was with our boy Flats in Winnipeg, who did a heck of a job with them. And now Brossoit is playing, he's played the last 4 or 5 in a row, and the team is still, they're winning. So, he's given them good enough goaltending to win. Now, the goaltending situation in Vegas, obviously, Flowers coming back this week. He's here on Saturday night. So, obviously, that's a sore spot for some. But the thing that they did is once Marc-Andre Fleury moved on and they decided they were going with Leonard, they gave Leonard a really strong guy to be his partner. And Brossoit's been really good. Can he carry the load, for the next 15 games or whatever, how much time Leonard's out? I don't know, but early returns are really good. The kid's athletic. He's been taught well. Obviously, he had 3 years in Winnipeg with Flats, who all Flats did was help Hellebuck become a Vezina winner and a Vezina finalist when he didn't win it. So there's some good structure to this kid. I'm not sure, what's going on in Edmonton, but I'm sure they'd like to have Mike Smith back to take some of the load off of Koskinen. But we've kind of beat that into the ground. It just goes to show you that, how important having 2 good goaltenders are in your organization. One, and I think what's happening in Edmonton right now is a little bit too much of the load's been dumped on Koskinen. And maybe Skinner, their young guy who's going to play this week, maybe he can help right the ship.
Yep. I love it. Let's end it with some shout outs. My shout outs are going to go 2 different ways. My first shout out is to the World Junior Russian team getting hammered and smoking on a flight home and getting everybody kicked off. That's what happens when you have 30-year-olds playing on your junior team. They want to smoke and drink. They're not 18. So yeah, good for them. Just saying, all right, let's take this to a new level. Have a good little time. So good for the Russians. And then I think was it the Germans were on the same flight and they just got caught up in the mix. So good for them. Just still causing havoc. Love it. Also want to send out a nice shout out to my friend Jordan and Aaron. They're going through some things. So big shout out for them. Much love. Over to you, Bob.
Okay. Hey, is it my turn? I feel like I've talked for like 37 minutes and you've got 34 seconds to.
What the hell?
I don't know. I'm just looking at that room actually over your shoulder. I like the cup there. But, I want to say real quick on your shout out to some people that might not know this. The Russian team were being a little bit unruly on an Air Canada flight. They were going from Calgary after the World Juniors got canceled to, I think it was Frankfurt or something.
Yeah.
They had to take them off the airplane because they weren't wearing their masks and being unruly. So people that don't know that story, that's where Ian's...
They were actually smoking on the plane.
Ian's doing a shout out to the Russian kids. They're like, we don't care. I'm going to do a shout out to the Manning brothers. Actually, I'll start with Peyton and Eli, but I'll throw Cooper out there too. I know we're a hockey podcast, but after the Rangers Edmonton game last night, I switched over to ESPN and I watched the Manning cast. And they had, let's see here, they had Coach Cower on, they had Snoop Dogg on, they had Roger Goodell, the commissioner, on, and Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers on. And it was unbelievable. It's like a 3-hour fireside chat with these guys with some football mixed in. So they're doing a playoff game, I think not this week, but maybe next week. Tune in to watch those guys. Shout out to the Mannings. They're always first class and highly entertaining. I know that's got nothing to do with hockey, but I'll throw a quick shout out this week.
Just because we're number 5 in Australia doesn't mean we don't give kudos to other games and other podcasts. So kudos.
Actually, that's right. And we're going to give another podcast a shout out. Our boy Hershey this week, he's doing a podcast called Blindsided. and it is awesome. It's in the Players Tribune, right?
Yep, Players
Mr. Bagg,
Tribune.
Lord Bagg.
Yep.
So we'll give one to him as well. Tune in to Blindsided. The audio is just a bit better than ours. And last one, my old teammate, good friend, who I only saw maybe once when he was here coaching for the Knights, is returning this week. Gerard Gallant with the New York Rangers. Shout out to Spuddy, the pride of Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, I think. Anyways, I know he's from PEI. That's it from here, Lord Bagg. Love to all.
Did you see him punch Reeves in the head the other night? He's yelling. He loves the game. Love to all, everybody.
Well, everybody, that's another week of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Lord Bagg. That was show number 49, I believe. So next week's the big 50th anniversary for Lord Bagg and I. Hope you enjoyed it this week. Hopefully the games get back rolling and we can get out from underneath this pandemic. Love to all.